Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hopes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, you'll set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been golden when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Call her Era Lord. Call me Levi, playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock, and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck
Started
is the
off with a
blockchain.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hopes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like LeBron James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. The field's not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum entities. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I got a shout out
Started
to
off with a
40.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hopes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Breaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in suits, yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, miny, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So I had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the ride with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
GM, welcome to Coffee with Captain. Appreciate y'all being here. I'm Cap, joined by my co-host Outer Loom today. Outer is on Spaces audio, not on video today. Hopefully we don't have the same challenges we had yesterday with X Spaces. I did get word that part of the issues was allegedly they are working on a big update for Grok. Grok 4.20 is supposed to drop this week. No, it's not a meme. It actually is a big update. Particularly, it's supposed to be really dialed in on trading and prediction markets. So we will see. But my guess they had to take it offline, unplug the router, plug it back in a few times to get the update to go through. I kid, but it ended up being okay yesterday. We didn't rug miraculously, but we are here, and as always, we're also live over on YouTube as well as Abstract. Abstract seems to be functioning today, and I will see if the X video feed, we should be live on the Coffee with Captain account, but discoverability has been hit or miss over there as well. GM, welcome. I see the first comment I see in the Spaces chat is a GM from Dort. I know you're not on video, so you can't see this. However, yeah, the shortened intro pane is throwing me for a loop. And this was actually, I was ready for it. I saw the countdown, but I didn't have my soundboard mic turned up. This is the first GM I see in the Spaces chat is Dort with a GIF of Sir Dunk and Egg. Oh my goodness. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to spoil for those who haven't seen it yet, but did you see the most recent episode, which is one of, if not the highest rated episode of all time in the Game of Thrones series per IMDb? Have you seen the most recent episode?
Oh, yes. I've definitely seen the most recent episode. GM, everyone.
GM.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good episode, but I like the one before that better.
Oh, really? Okay.
But this one was good too. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're good. I mean, we got 7 more minutes out of it, so that's good. It was a 37-minute episode.
I think this was the first one in that went from it's not a comedy, obviously, but there's been like more comedic scenes and episodes in Knights of the Seven Kingdom than, or Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, than there has been in, you know, the Game of Thrones or even House of Dragons. You know, no dragons in this series. This was the first one where I don't know, like I was on the edge of my seat.
Where
Like,
shit hit the fan?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
It was I think this is the one where they turned on the Game of Thrones / House of Dragon like feel to it.
Yes.
It makes sense now. Because before I think there was like a lead up to it.
I like, to give you an idea, we have guests the state of the house last night, and so it was up a little later than normal. I get in bed, my fall asleep time past my bedtime. Normally, I would be out 10 minutes into an episode of whatever I was watching. Not only was I not out and stayed up for the duration of the whole show, like I was like sitting up, like took me a minute to fall asleep afterwards because I was like, the heart was racing. And it was one of those episodes that if you like, you know, it was just, again, I'm trying to think how I can describe it without spoiling it. And yeah, last episode was good too, but this one was, yeah, you nailed it. It was more, yeah, they
It was action packed, right?
Exactly.
And it was, well, you know, it's funny. 'Cause this is actually kind of funny, I think. Divide and I finished watching it, and I'm just like, man, okay, that feels like the usual, you know, two other series that this belongs to. So fine. But I'm like, but I feel like watching maybe something a little bit light, just like for fun to like de-escalate from that or whatever.
So funny. I did the
So
same
I
thing.
suggested that we should watch Marty Supreme,
Oh.
which we did, and I knew like I wanted to see it, but I love watching movies without knowing a ton about them. I don't think I even saw the trailer for Marty Supreme. I just wanted to see it. That is to follow with Marty Supreme is not like a de-escalation
Oh,
chill.
really? Okay. So I've not seen Marty
It's
Supreme.
amazing. It's a brilliant film, but like so good, and also I think definitely is like, yeah, I don't know, man. Just when you think it can't go places, it goes places, which I thought was actually really good.
Interesting. So definitely worth the watch. You'd
Oh,
recommend.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's on my list. I've not watched it yet, but it's one I did want to watch. I got to find even what it was called, because I did the exact same thing after that. I was like, okay, I got to turn on something de-escalating for a few minutes, and it was, maybe it's called Bad Neighbors. Is this a thing?
I don't know. I don't know Bad Neighbors.
I'm trying to. I just Googling it. It doesn't look like it's called Bad Neighbors. It's some series on Prime. I don't even know what. Maybe it's just Amazon Prime. Maybe it was something I normally would never like watch or get into, but it's basically, it goes back and forth between two, you know, different. There's multiples, but like one is people that moved out in like the middle of nowhere, and they're going back and forth battling because it's supposed to be an open prairie. The other person said, no, I own this land. I'm going to put a fence on this main road that you've been using for decades. And that person also is some, you know, viral personality on Instagram or TikTok. They've got a couple million followers. The other one was people battling over private and public beachfront. Like one of them is a Backstreet Boys singer who it's apparently there's a little sliver of public beach and all the rest is private, but yet they only own up to it. Again, it's not.
It's just like people drama kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. It's not. I'm not recommending it to watch it. It's just that's where I went to, like, okay, this is people drama, but not. No one's going to die, and that I probably won't watch another episode. But that's my thinking was the same thing. I need to de-escalate from.
I found a gem yesterday. So on Amazon Prime. Now I'm in Canada, so like I don't know. You'll have to just look this up wherever your streaming goes, but I imagine it's Prime. It's called Secret Level, and there are these shorts, kind of like Death Love Robots series on Netflix. But this is each short is based on like a theme or borrowing from video games. And so far I've watched I think 3 or 4 of them, and my favorite one is the Warhammer one. That one is like just really cool. But they have a Pac-Man one, which is also just such a trip. So I highly recommend if you want a really cool like sci-fi-ish palette cleanser with like really cool visuals, and like the Dungeons and Dragons one, for instance, was just hilarious. But yeah.
Sorry, my bad. I was trying to grab the YouTube link. Didn't think that.
Oh,
would
that's
come through.
okay. But yeah, I highly recommend Secret Level. It's super, super cool.
You made me think when you were explaining that. Any new games? Any new games caught your attention since we last spoke about gaming?
Oh man, did you see my my fling a cat Roblox adventure? That was so fun to make. I did not have Roblox game dev on my bingo card for 2026, but here we are.
On my bingo card of what I wanted to talk about today is the Outer Lumen Vibe Coding arc and building Roblox games. Now that you've shipped one, do you, okay, that's cool, I did it, I'm done, I'm going to move on, or do you can see yourself continuing to, are you going to build another Roblox game?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Tell us about the journey. What's unpack this. What inspired it? Was it just seeing everything on the timeline? Like, hey, if others are doing this, I can do it. And what, if someone else is thinking the same thing after you've done one now, what's the best advice you give them what to do or not to do from your learning experience?
Yeah, I mean, Hoodie's been talking about Roblox games for a minute. So it's just kind of like, yeah, I think this would be fun to try. For those who don't know, vibe coding in Roblox is not as straightforward as like vibe coding a website. You can't just be like, whatever AI agent you use, make me this thing in a bunch of folders and I'm going to ship it. Because everything is done in Roblox Studio. So the scripts have to be ported into Studio, and the meshes and 3D, whatever, like all those things have to be in Roblox Studio. They do have a couple of like APIs you can get into that could automate some of this, but I kind of did, like, my process was using it like just full on Blender. I was like, hey kid, because I have a kid who uses Blender, can you make me, a 3D mesh of a quantum cat? Because I thought it'd be so funny. But like, don't make it too good, but make it, make it good enough. And there are AIs, by the way, that will give you 3D meshes now, just even from word prompts. The thing that's funny about them is that they're not good enough yet that you don't spend time fixing it. So we're kind of at that stage where it's just not quite ready for you to just be like, create me this, and it will just perfectly do it. Then you're going to spend time finessing it. So I just had the meshes done that way. And then I used Cursor and I used ChatGPT, like a bit of Codex, but like nothing too crazy. But the process and the flow, and maybe like I'll write about this or something. I don't know. But like I've seen so many articles on my timeline that I'm sick of articles, so I don't feel like adding yet one more article to the like article timeline right now, because that seems to be the meta, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. But the flow was, I designed the game and the core loops of the game with ChatGPT, just in thinking about like what kind of thing would be fun to make as a first like, exploration. And then I used Cursor to generate the scripts. So there's a ton of different scripts that are involved in having like a pop-up UI come up that'll tell you like the shop, for instance, where you could like, every time you fling a cat, you get like a little cat currency, then you can spend it on, making them all like become snow. And I just, the point wasn't to make something that was like, oh my God, like this, because like no one's going to see this, like aside from a few people that click and find it interesting. But I enjoy gaming. And so this was kind of just like something that I use to explore what developing on Roblox is like. Because Roblox, if you do nail their distribution in whatever zeitgeist that, that looks like, it can actually reach quite a few people. So, and my first one was just to get familiarized with how that works and what I want my flow to be. The second one I'm working on now is a little bit more in depth. But yeah, it's like just something I don't think I would have done if I had to write Lua scripts from like scratch. Like there's just no way I felt like going that deep into it. But this was really cool to like mastermind what I wanted to see and tweak it. There was something I wanted to get working that I actually didn't get working. Like one of the things I wanted people to be able to buy as a global effect during like that little fun chaos period is a platform tilt. and I couldn't execute the platform tilt in a way that I thought functioned that was like fun as opposed to annoying. And maybe I'll revisit it and push like a patch or something, but it's not all like vibe coding, roses where you just like get exactly what you want. It definitely required a bit of tweaking. But considering I have never made a Roblox game before in my life, to have fully made like a functional one with servers that actually works is pretty cool. And having like, the ultimate hardest part is the last thing I'll say on this, unless you have like questions about it, is the actual like KYC air quotes to get my profile in a place where I could publish and to get the game in a place where I could publish. Like it took a minute to have to do a bunch of like quests to make sure that I could actually make the game public.
So it's not just upload a picture, upload your ID. It's you actually have to go through.
Yes, so my profile, I had to do the age scan thing. I had to do I actually had to I had a choice to either fully KYC or buy some Robux. They either one verified my profile, so I did that. I had to do there was a bunch of things, and then on the game itself, I had to do a maturity content questionnaire, which is like super long about every piece of thing that could be in there. That could be like violence or inappropriate use or blah blah blah. So I had to do that. Yeah, there was like a ton of logistics to actually be able to hit publish. And now that I've set it up, it's fine. One of the things that I learned is it's ideal that you make a group. So I made Outer Lumen Games as a group, like a community, and it's the community that published the game, and that is kind of like the best practice from what I gathered, because if my profile goes down, the game still exists because it's in a community as opposed to attached to a user profile. So I did it that way as kind of like the alpha that I got about Roblox deployment.
Very interesting. People are asking, Fling a Cat is the name of the game. I did pin it up top in the Spaces Jumbotron. Absolute Zero said, what's the name of the game? I'm logging with the kids tonight. To your point, you didn't build this thing to be like the next blockbuster game on Roblox, but you have to start somewhere. And I'm guessing the one you're building now, you're you've figured out that learning curve to where you might build a better, more strategic or robust game in the same time or less time, because you've figured out the steps and the process. And I don't know, talking to Dobbins. Dobbins is building an agent, and I mentioned where he's at in the chat. It's like you got to start somewhere. You got to start using the tools, using the resources, and it's highly unlikely the first thing you build is going to be life changing. Look at Claudebot. Look at Peter that just sold OpenClaw to OpenAI for presumably $1 billion.
Was that real? I actually didn't know if that was real or not.
Yep.
I didn't deeply follow it enough to check, and I my warning was like, is that for real, or is that like a shit post?
Yeah, no, I don't know if it was real that it was $1 billion. I'd be surprised if it's less, just because of the virality of what he built, the GitHub commits, and knowing the amount of money that these AI giants are paying just top level engineers, some of which haven't built anything remotely close to OpenClaw yet in terms of virality and usage. So I would guess it's maybe not $1 billion, probably not $1 billion cash, but there's probably the full package. I wouldn't be surprised if it's at least over the next 3 to 5 years, it's probably to the tune of $1 billion. But it was my bigger point, even whether it was 100 million or $1 billion, and knowing that he could have probably went into a bidding war with Claude or Anthropic and OpenAI and others, I would be surprised if it's anything less than 100 million and probably closer to $1 billion. But yeah, he definitely sold. Sam Altman called him a genius. And my point is, that was, I think, the 24th thing that agent related project that he'd built. His GitHub is full of shots on goal, and some of them might have gained a little bit of traction. Some of them's already sunset. Some of them may have a future, but at the end of the day, it was shot on goal, 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 and then boom, caught lightning in a bottle. And you're never going to get there. And that is like the extreme example. Very few people are going to code anything that's going to sell for $1 billion or $100 million or $1 million. But one thing I'm certain of is you're never going to get there if you don't start using some of these tools. And I am, self-admittedly, I feel behind just because I'm so close to this stuff and I see people talking about it. I know I need to be doing more, and I've been probably hung up on what too much so than just getting started and just playing around and tinkering and building things and wanting to make where I guess as I reflect, where I maybe struggled is like, well, I could go vibe code something, but the reality is I'm going to spend more time building it than I could just do it myself. Like the things that have popped in my brain from a non-technical, non-dev standpoint have been things that might help with minor efficiencies, but the work it would take to get to that end state has just not been, I've not justified it yet. But at the same time, I know like this is the future. It's not going away. And I think these are very important skills to learn. So kudos for doing the thing and shipping a game. And I don't have a Roblox account, probably not going to jump in and play Fling a Cat, but it is inspiring to me to go build something, go tinker, go experiment. And I
think the hardest part is the idea, though. Like that's the
sure.
thing that like I want to get into like the thing I pinned up top too for a second because I think it's relevant to this conversation. But there's something to be said about the thing that AI doesn't replace that much, which is that like initial what should I make? Like you're still driving the bus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the destination is still up to you. Unless you go on there and you're like, what should I make today? Which might be fun, but like and maybe that's where you start. Maybe you're just like, I have no idea what to make with you. What should I make? I haven't gone that meta, but like that's an interesting thing to consider. But I mean, start somewhere, right?
Yep.
One thing that I thought was fascinating in having like a discussion with my kid, who I was like, hey, can you make me something in Blender? Versus like, can I just use one of these like text or image to 3D instant mesh tools using AI? Is this conversation of process. And I responded to Steve's post with this because I thought it was kind of interesting because I think his daughter is the same age as my son. And literally I wrote like, interesting that your kids are into it. I believe my son is the same age as your daughter. And while he's versed in using AI, especially for coding, he is overall against its existence.
Wow.
Because it diminishes the enjoyment and learning of certain processes, like tinkering away on something versus generating it. He recognizes the monumental shift that occurred, kind of like internet happening to us, which I think is very interesting in that like idea that like he enjoyed using Blender.
Interesting.
Like he actually just genuinely enjoyed the process of, right? Like someone might enjoy oil painting, or someone might enjoy like if you're in it for the process of tinkering, and that could look like, shipping 24 things with AI. It depends on how you scale it. But I think for someone who's a kid, it's interesting to see how there is a shortcut that exists now. Right?
Not to challenge your kid, but would it be? I know he's got very intelligent parents, and he's going to do just fine because he's been tinkering. But my thinking would be, doesn't this just help him tinker faster and ship more and build more and be, take more ideas to reality? Or
well, it changes it, right? Just in how internet has changed the way that we ingest information. And I think the bigger point in his insight is that he doesn't have a choice in it. It's just happening to him, right? So now it's like, why would you learn how to watercolor if you could just generate watercolor images? Unless you really do want it for the process. But his point is that in his generation, there is no need for learning that process.
Yeah.
That's the part that he's missing out on. Not personally, but just like as a generation, you can now skip that step.
Skip the process, but doesn't it, for those that understand the process, don't those individuals feel there's some edge there on understanding the underlying fundamentals?
Well, I think the point is that he doesn't get to learn the process. That's the point, is that like, why would he learn watercolor? Like, as an example, it's a dumb one, but whatever. Like, why learn how to watercolor if you can generate a watercolor image? So you don't get to learn the process of that. You wouldn't even know what you're missing, is the point.
Yeah.
Is that he's making. So like, absolutely it fast tracks it, and he's very AI versed. Like
Very
but
profound
it's
thoughts
it's
from
that,
him.
like, it's a philosophical insight, I think, on his behalf, of just being like, hey, you had to do these like from first principle things that are now fast tracked for me, and so what the kind of processes that he would enjoy are changing, like, just much as if like in maybe 20 years this accelerated to a point where you wouldn't even prompt an agent anymore, then that generation would miss the process of prompting or having a relationship with an agent that we now have in this today, right?
Yeah, very, very profound philosophical thoughts from a teenager. Speaks wonders to his parents. But Steve's post that Outer was referencing, I got it up here on screen, says, this is 100% real and why I'm always trying to learn. My OpenClaw is the best, but I'm doing it. My kids are very AI savvy compared to their friends, and that's by design. My daughter is on a Lego robotics team and worked with me on an app recently. Seen everyone I'm friends with on Facebook just starting to do AI imagery, which my professional circle was doing 2 to 3 years ago, makes me excited. We're all on the cutting edge, staying ahead. And this was the OP was Miles I can't even, I'm not even trying to say it. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I know. Miles said, in 10 years, will be 2 classes of people. Economists call this the K-shaped economy. In the next 2 to 3 years, will decide which line you're on. An overclass that uses AI as a lever to build wealth, automate income, and make decisions at a speed no human can compete with alone. In an underclass that it gets managed by it. This isn't just coming. It's already happening. Some mind-blowing stats. Workers with AI skills earn 56% more than the same job without them. That premium doubled in a single year. Industries adopting AI are seeing 3x the revenue growth per employee. Meanwhile, 90% of workers haven't taken a single hour of AI training. That is mind-blowing to me. That is like probably the craziest stat I've heard in a while. Just coming, like, I'm not a a corporate person. It's just not my makeup. I've spent early in my career some time in corporate America, and then most recently, my last quote unquote job was after we sold to a large publicly traded insurance company, and I spent a few years there. And they're not a bad company. It was just misery for me. And part of that was not just the seemingly endless Zoom meetings that could have been emails with 17 people on them, but the ongoing every week, if not daily, there was some stupid new online training as part of their LMS module that, oh, you had to go complete this. So for my point being, for all the training that is forced down, these corporate employees, it is kind of wild to me that 90% of workers haven't taken a single hour. Like, what are they doing when seemingly a lot of these businesses are getting it? Like, you're starting to see incorporation of AI, you're starting to see the layoffs. Goldman Sachs estimates 3 million jobs will be affected by AI in 2028. That's 24 months from now. If you're reading this now and you haven't built systems with AI, haven't automated a single workflow, haven't used it to create anything that makes you money or makes you irreplaceable, you're currently on the wrong line. That's not an insult. You have agency to change your trajectory right now, but 6 months from now, the gap will be twice as wide. In a year from now, it may not be crossable. I've got the graph pulled up here on screen, but yeah, I'm kind of blown away that 90% of employees haven't taken a single hour of AI training. Like,
That's wild.
Is it with intent? Like, do you think they're doing this to just make it easier to lay off these people because they don't know AI? I can't
Maybe. I mean, I think, like, here's a question I have for the audience. Like, if you haven't tried any AI tool at all or to make something, like, and I don't mean if you like I think talking to ChatGPT, like, as your search now or your like source of info versus Google, sure. But like, to actually make something, if you haven't done that yet, is it the paradox of choice that's stopping you, in the sense that there's just like way too many tools and way too many genres? Like, because the tools are somewhat specialized now more than ever, right? Like, you're going to use, like, even me, I found like 3 or 4 great AI tools that are specific for text or image prompting to 3D meshes. Like, you wouldn't even use this for anything else. You're literally going in there because it's like a gamers or a three or the other community that uses this, the 3D printing community, right, to make 3D models for printing. Like, that is so niche compared to some other thing that generates videos or some other thing. Like, it's completely, like, the landscape is huge. So how do you like cast your net and use that one thing? or it's a multitude of things. Like in my case, for that Roblox game I made, there was like a bunch of tools and a toolkit of AI tools, if that makes sense.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like, how do you assemble the toolkit for the thing you're trying to do?
And I mean, I can relate to that as someone I use AI daily. I built things with AI, but I've not really built something. I've not shipped a game. I've not shipped an app. I've not like built anything that is usable by other people. I've built like some basic workflows, sure, but I know I'm not. I know there's a lot more I can do with AI, and part of it is, I guess, waiting for the right idea, waiting for the thing like to really build, overcomplicating it. Like I don't need to wait until I have, oh, that's the next great idea. Let me go build this thing. Rather, just tinker, have a fun project, and then beyond that, okay, where do I start? There's so many tools, so many resources out there. Most of them are very specific and very, tailored to a certain use case. One that I've been seeing all over the timeline, including Udi, and not to put you on the spot, but I've seen him really talk a lot recently about Seed Dance. Seed Dance, that's right. Seed Dance 2.0. Am I saying, is that correct, the name?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it either, but yes, the video generator, that's like insane.
And there's been a lot of video generators, and they keep leveling up. Famously the Will Smith eating spaghetti examples from a few years ago to now. It's a completely different world, but how easy it is to create these videos now is very different. And that's where I think I get hung up. It's like, oh, there's so much you could do with AI. Where do I start? That's not going to lead me down some 3-week rabbit hole that at the end of the day, I don't really have any meaningful output from. And I think what I need to get past is the meaningful output is my skill set. The meaningful output is learning and getting better and learning a new skill that I don't have today. And it's almost like trust the process. Like the journey is the experience here, and don't be concerned with the output now. Like eventually, yeah, you need to start outputting things that are useful and helps with efficiency and makes your life better or other people's lives better. But I think right now, speaking for myself, and if you're in this boat, like if you're here today, if you're listening to this, you're early. Now, a year from now, that may not be the case, but I do believe today it's so easy to compare yourself with others, whether it's, oh, this person, they made 8 figures on meme coin trading, and I didn't do that. This person made 7 figures flipping NFTs. This person is up 7-8 figures on perp decks, on trading perps. Like you're still way ahead of most people. And for instance, like if you have 1 Bitcoin, if you're a whole coiner, you're ahead of the majority of people on this planet. But yet here, like, oh, what's a bag that's worth $69,000-$70,000? It seems like nothing, but the reality is you're so far ahead of the majority of the people. And I think it's not too late, but it is important to get started. Part of this is a personal pep talk. I just need to start doing more with AI.
I feel like I just need to give you a challenge, maybe. Maybe I just feel like, okay, Cap, you have a week until next Tuesday. Make this one small thing and ship it.
Yeah. And it's funny because see people in the chat saying, I actually several, what's the alpha? Well, I said the alpha is learn a new AI skill this week. I literally said that a few seconds ago. We see, others, Zane, who very sharp, very successful, works with some of the biggest creators in the world, says, I don't use AI to build anything crazy, but it saves me so many hours a month at this point, drafting creative briefs, researching, compiling data, trends for clients. That's where I'm at. It has absolutely made my life more efficient.
Well, and I think that's okay. Like you nailed something when you earlier said, like, not everyone has to have a goal of shipping something for public use. You can have your AI use be that it benefits your life greatly and makes it easier and makes it better, right? Like from cooking to whatever, like name it. So I think like it just depends. And if you do want to take it to that like other level, then yes, you could have something that's public. But I think if you were going to do that, I would start with making something that is still inherently yours, but public has access to it. So maybe it's like, just making a website for yourself, or, like there's just so many things that you can come up with that are like still small, but something that exists publicly, and then you can take that further, and maybe it's something beyond that. But like, I don't think everyone has to like, oh, you better ship a game on Roblox or whatever it is. Like, unless you're chasing something like that, or you really want to learn like a specific process or a skill set, then I don't think it's necessarily like important that you like ship a full-on public-facing product. Like,
I agree. It's perfectly fine for most people. I also know myself, and as a builder, as a lifelong entrepreneur, I'm 100% certain there'll be another idea that I want to lean into and want to build, and versus waiting till that thing that strikes me, that moment, I have that deep thought in the shower, and it's like, oh, this is it. Rather than waiting and then learning these skills, I do think it would be beneficial to myself and just how I am and how I think to do more now, so that when I do have something that comes to mind I want to build, I'm not just starting my learning curve. You got a lot of game testers, by the way. Thomas says if you need a game tester, his kiddo plays Roblox. He's on vacation next week and getting OpenClaw and ClawBot Arc to help work with related task and union representation stuff. Dort says, as an Xennial, Generation X, I fully recognize bilingualism, but as I have someone who've experienced their formative years in both an analog and digital world, and that's helped him in life. Otis says, trying flipping that AI switch in my kid, but apparently school says it's bad. This is my major gripe with our education today is far too many schools are instead of teaching the kids the skills and the tools and the different resources, they're saying it's bad. Like, could kids use AI to cheat on homework or a test? Yeah, sure. But it's far more important than learning how to type or learning how to use a calculator. When I was a kid, you won't have a calculator in your pocket for the rest. What we do, you were wrong, teachers. DoorDash, I wonder if this micro generation will experience the same as they transition from non-AI to an AI world. And
that's exactly what my kid and I were talking about, because like I'm in that similar boat where I'm like, the later millennial, where you had that, like, yes, I experienced both coming in, and that's what the interesting thing is about my kid's generation, where he is exactly in that same boat, but with AI, where he has had enough time where he didn't experience having it, and now he is, but he's still young. So I imagine it's going to be that like similar, like one foot in, one foot out. Maybe that's why we're having these kind of conversations about its like overall impact, because he's recognizing that this is like a very like huge event that's happening, and he happens to be like, like I think a 2-year-old now is going to have a completely different like experience of this, just like a 20-year-old does versus someone who is like 13, 14.
Yep. And I think whether you're an entrepreneur and thinking about what's the next thing you might build, or you work for a large corporation, Thomas, this is a real life example. Says, I was trying to explain AI to my HR manager at work. She said, it's crazy that I mentioned ClawBot and OpenClaw to help with emails, scheduling, and more. Now I have an application for cybersecurity at work, LOL. Like, these skills, I don't know what the exact impact of this is going to have on society or the workforce for sure. Although I'm near certain that those who understand how to use these tools and how to, whether it's personal life or at work, like they're going to be in high demand, because not everyone's going to. And some people, when I'm using AI now, it's just going to be like a glorified Google search. And they're just going to use it for research, not actually building things. And I do think those that do are going to be, and Dort's correcting me, by the way. He says, Xennial is a term used to define 77 to 85, not quite Gen X, not quite millennial, that grew up fluent in both analog and digital worlds. You're part of that. I am. Yes, I was a 1980 baby, and I'm proud to be.
Yeah, it's like Xennial or something.
Yep.
This like weird little cusp of
Mhm.
of like that age. I think you were like in high school or something when the internet happened, maybe.
Correct. Yep. I graduated high school in 99. Was a freshman in college in 99, and really at the heart of that generation. I consider myself a Gen X, but this is probably more fitting. And I do think, like, to that point, I do think these generations, there's so much crossover and overlap. The Venn diagrams are very, very, very real. A lot of crossover there. We got Acid and Jonah on stage here. We'll get to them in the conversation in a second. Last post I have shared on screen. This comes from my copywriter Von Frunten. Time it took to be adopted by 20% of the U.S. population: electricity, 46 years; telephone, 35 years; radio, 31 years; TV 26 years, personal computer 16 years, cell phone 13 years, World Wide Web 7 years, smartphone 4 years, social media 3 years, generative AI 2 years. While I do agree, I also think distribution is a lot easier today than it was pre-electricity. So it's a little exaggerated in terms of this growth curve, but it's without a doubt it's growing, and not just being adopted by 25% of the population, just the rate of change, the speed of evolution from someone who grew up during, is in like a high schooler in college during the dot-com era, and built my professional career in the wireless business and then in the as smartphones became a thing. This rate of change is unlike anything I've ever seen, to a pretty big extreme, to a pretty large magnitude. That said, Acid, appreciate your patience. GM, what brought you up this morning?
GM, bro. So, great space, by the way. What actually brought me up was the conversation about your kids and AI, that separate thing. Because a lot of times I think about how can I get my daughter involved in AI without exposing her to too much at one time. Mm-hmm. Because I was thinking about the things that she enjoys, like vlogging, dancing, watching videos on YouTube, things like that, watching people eat. So my first thought was, what can I get her to do that gets her interested in the basics, you know what I mean? Where she wants to look up certain things. So I was debating on if I should get her into something like Night Cafe, one that has like AI prompts where you could put for an image to make an image out of it. So she could start from the basics. But I was also thinking, like, could I do something more of like script or math, or some kind of schoolwork thing? So I'm just going through my head a lot. I'm thinking about lots of stuff like that as far as parenting, kind of thing. So you're a great space, by the way, man.
Can I ask how old your kid or kids are?
I've got a 7-year-old turning 8 in 2 months, and I got a 1-year-old.
Oh, wow. Man, it's almost, I don't want to say it's different, but I actually do think it's probably two different things. I mean, your 1-year-old not going to be doing much with AI yet, but when they become ready, it probably looks very different than what you would, maybe not, but my first gut instinct is probably looks very different for how you help educate and guide your 1-year-old once they're at that age than it does your 7 or 8-year-old today. Outer, I know it's a little younger than your kiddo. Any recommendations, any thoughts for Acid, like how to help?
I mean, okay, this is like, here's a product idea for whoever's listening. And this is only because I really like that Spielberg film AI. If you haven't seen that movie, you really should. It's very like, especially now, it's even more interesting now. But it has a teddy bear that kind of belongs with an AI kid. And I know that there's companies that have tried to make these toys, but like, I don't know, man. If there was a way to give your 1-year-old like if there's a language that you guys don't speak but you want your kid to speak, if you had a really good, like, how is this not in the market yet for parents of young kids, where you can get like the teddy bear, whatever, stuffy, and the thing like it is great and doesn't say weird things, but also can speak a whole other language. Because your language centers, like if you want to be bilingual, you got to get that in up until about 4 or 5 years old. If you try to do it later, it still works, but like the full bilingualism come if you actually speak to a baby up until they're 4, and then they start like mirroring and speaking that back to you. So imagine you could give your kid like 1 or 2 extra languages, because you could have this like extra AI toy talking to your baby this entire time in a language, and suddenly it's just fluent. Obviously, there's got to be a lot of protection around that, blah, 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 like all the things, yes. But I feel like that, there's the companion AI market is maybe not one that we talk about here in crypto Twitter, but if you like zoom out, like if you have a couple of colleagues that work in like, aging and senior centers and that, and there's like combating loneliness there. And then there's like companions for kids. And like, it's not to like replace the fact that you should have friends, but there's something to be said about like, thinking of an interesting product that could come. Like, so when you said that you have a 1-year-old, I'm like, what if your 8-year-old designed a toy for the 1-year-old and like fully trained this like cute little, AI, and then you can just give it like a multi-language feature. But this is me just like literally, I woke up like an hour ago and I don't know, I'm just brainstorming stuff.
I love it.
No, I feel the same way about you do with that brainstorm, because my first thought when he stopped was, wait, what if I ever 80 AI printing, some 3D printing stuff as a kid? And I'm like, that sounds crazy for a kid too.
Very, I love it. Speaking of 3D printing, I'm not sure if it was real, but did anyone see the 3D printed boat?
I saw that it was black hitting with a sledgehammer.
Yeah,
That was crazy, bro.
Was it real or was that AI generated? And this is part of the
I
challenge
don't.
is I don't know what's real and what's not anymore. But if it's like, I also at the same time, even if it's not real yet, I believe it's coming soon.
Does it matter anymore if something is real or not? I am like, again, getting philosophical a little bit. I've been thinking a lot about what that even means, because especially like if you're on Sora and then you like transition to TikTok, or if you just have people posting Sora stuff on TikTok, it's very interesting to be like, well, if the content is interesting to me, does it become less interesting suddenly because I know that it's been generated on Sora if I found it interesting in the first place? Like, I don't know. There's something really, really fascinating about that.
Yeah, I would say yes and no. I mean, yeah, it's still interesting, partially because even if it's not capable to actually be built like that yet, I do think it's coming. And it's kind of like, is it now or is it a glimpse into the future? Speaking of it, like what I also think was real was the Chinese China Spring Festival and these kung fu fighting robots and using nunchucks. And did you see this one? I'll pull up the video in a second. Before I do that, before I get away from this, Acid and anyone else with kids, GT8 Studios says Scratch is great for kids. It's just the handles at Scratch. I did pin it up top as well. Coding, design, animation, storytelling, and more. Speaking of storytelling, I saw we had a storyteller, Cab with Klanos, join the stage as well. So it's going to be a fun combo today. I also, no pressure, but since we're talking vibe coding this morning, I see Brad's out there. Brad, if you want to jump up and riff a little bit about your recent vibe coding arc, you're welcome to join us. But again, no pressure. I know you're a busy guy. But before we get into storytelling and more vibe coding, Jonah, I'm guessing the vibe coding in Roblox is what prompted you to come up this morning? GM?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I think it's. I was gonna say, I think that you don't really need to know how a game is made. Like ultimately, with vibe coding, at least not, you won't in like a decade. But it's more about the game design that you need to learn, like the syntax of the game. I think that's where that's what you teach kids, not necessarily how it's developed.
What do you mean by that? Like what hooks and how to build a good game? Like what are the
Yeah, like the logic around a game, building rule sets, what type
of core
of
loops. You got to nail the core loop.
Yeah, like what that's what matters more than how to code the game. I mean, when you go to a game studio, you have the front end and back end developers, but you also have a game designer. And game designers, I mean, some of them know how to code, but a lot of them don't. They just are really good with systems and mapping it and putting it together. They get hired pretty often.
And just to define what a core loop is, it's funny, like when you talk about a loop in the game, it's very short. It's like seconds. In Mario Kart, which probably is a game most people know, the core loop is like you drive and you might pick up some item, you might throw the item and you keep driving. The core loop is like not even winning the race. It's like literally the repeatable thing in the game that feels good. It's tiny. And then you get a whole bunch of other loops around that, which is like finishing the game, finishing a level, blah, 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 like all those things that are on top of it. But the very basic core loop is like the first few seconds of how that game feels. And if that feels good, then you nailed it. Like the core loop in Fling a Cat is you run, you fling a cat, you get some currency. You keep running, you fling a cat, you get some currency. That's the core loop of that. Like it's very, very basic. Super basic. And I agree with Jonah. Like if you understand nailing that part, then you can build a whole bunch of stuff on top of that, regardless of the tooling.
Yeah, we could go. My brain's running this morning in several different directions. So I'm going to do my best to keep the ADHD under control. For those that were curious, I do have the Chinese robots dancing and kung fu fighting on the screen here. I'll pin that up top if anyone wants to watch the whole video later. Acid, I see your hand up. Go ahead and get back in here.
Yeah, I just had the craziest thought. It was okay, so I have ADHD just like you, bro. I do, because I'm about to do it right now. So I was like, wait a minute. What if my kid draws a picture of whatever she wants to draw, just any kind of picture, and some type of AI helps her create something from that point on? You know what I mean? Like adds on to that image. I was thinking of that too right now. It just popped in my head, bro.
Yeah, I kid you not, this morning I was listening to Establish the Run, which is a sports, more specifically a daily fantasy sports or fantasy sports podcast, a little bit of sports betting. Adam Levitan and team have been at it for years, and it's the off season for football. They do other sports as well, but they had on someone today talking markets and AI, and the guest was talking about he's got a 4-year-old and too early to really get into coding and doing all the tech, but is using. They said she's a big fan of Elsa in the movie Frozen, and so he's helping her be creative, and showed her to hey, here's how you can make yourself look like an Elsa character, and just like I think like my kids are both over 18. Like I don't different realm, and while I do think it's very important, even as Outer said earlier, like if you want to teach a kid to be bilingual, it's a lot easier to do that before they're 4 than wait until they're 14 or 18, like many of us learned in school. And I think just expose it's a fine line, right? Like self-admittedly, I'm ashamed to say I gave both my kids a smartphone way too early. Should not have done that. Didn't while I saw the evolution coming, I didn't foresee brain rot and all the horrors of what became social media and the addictive nature of all that. And they're both really good kids and they did fine. But if I could do it over again, I would have deferred. I would have waited a few years to put a phone in their hands. But I do think there's this fine line of when you have kids, like it's challenging to parent. Like I want them to be exposed to this stuff. I want them to understand this stuff. I want them to learn this stuff. But it also comes with downside. It also comes with risks and things to be aware of. And further, why I think it's even more important for not just people in the workforce, but parents to use these resources, use these tools, so you can understand what they are, so you can help educate your kids, but also understand what are some of the pitfalls, what are some of the bad that could come out of this. And I think you're much likely to see that earlier if you're using it yourself, as opposed to just seeing what you see on the internet somewhere. Cap GM, always a pleasure. Take it whichever direction you like. Then I am curious. I'd like to tug the string a little bit on creativity and how much Kleinos is leaning into AI from a creation standpoint right now. You guys are crushing it on socials and some of the best content from a Web3 brand I've seen out there. You're obviously getting a lot of accolades, and this isn't me saying this. You're getting a lot of accolades and rewards from major agencies and conferences. And I anything you're willing to share, I'm curious to know how much AI is helping with that creation. But before we go there, feel free to take whichever direction you'd like. Always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us, GM.
Oh man, I'm stoked to be here. I just got back from Belfast, so I might be super ADD as well. A little bit jet lagged, but a lot to unpack. Yeah, I can get into the glam stuff later, but I just wanted to chime in onto what some people had said. So, like, as far as kids are concerned, I think that I don't know where the education system goes, but I think it's a little bit fucked. You used to get tutors for kids when they had trouble learning stuff, and more often than not, the reason they'd have trouble learning something is because the teacher was absolute garbage, or had an inability to cater to a specific students or kids like comprehension of a subject or the way they learn, because not everybody learns the same way. And where this goes for me is that your ChatGPT or whatever model you're using is essentially your private tutor. Like if you're using that stuff as a voice assistant, it's insane, and it can over time cater to the person. And not only that, it can make the subject interesting. Like if you ask it anything about history, you can go down a rabbit hole for like 4 hours, and it's kind of dope. And I think that for kids is going to be a huge value add if you can make subjects more interesting. And I think that the agent itself would be able to discern if it's not interesting to the kid. Okay, how do I make it? Let's try something else. And oftentimes teachers can't do that. That's not everybody, but unfortunately, sometimes it happens. The big question mark, though, is how do you socialize kids? So I really don't know where that goes. I think there's going to be a huge influx of homeschooling. But at the same time, you need to allow kids to like meet each other, and especially like post-COVID, that's like you say, there's like a loneliness epidemic. So some fun thoughts there. I don't know where it goes, but it is interesting. I think that education becomes super interesting and probably better than it is today. Not probably, definitely.
For sure. Just real quick.
Yeah.
I think
interjection.
it's changed a bunch now in the fact that, like, at least in the Gen Alpha generation,
Yeah.
I'm finding that like YouTube content, because already Gen Alpha is actually prime more for long form content than they are like Gen Zers love like their TikTok and whatever reels and like just seeing that shift into more long form content. But like my son loves war history, but not because of AI. He's not going to talk to AI about it. He doesn't give a shit about using AI for that. But having some YouTuber like give him like a full on rundown of like he knows all of the like either game streamers or like historian people that are on there that make like that video content that is like, you know, it could be a 20-minute video or like even an hour long video.
Like you know, if you think of like Kurzgesagt or something like that, or even like a human influencer, it's just more interesting, and it's almost like you don't feel forced to learn it. You're doing it because you like it, like watching a documentary. So I'm 100% with you on that, and I think it's a mix of both, where like the access to information is just huge. Now, the argument that everyone has is like, well, where's the real source of truth? And unfortunately, even systems like Gemini pull from YouTube videos, and sometimes a YouTuber might be wrong, but the same could be said about teachers. So there are pitfalls for sure, but I do think it's exciting for, especially if you're a parent. I'm not a parent, but you know, have like nephews and stuff like that. And I think that what's really interesting is that they have so many options if they're not getting it, or if they don't get it at school.
Couple things real quick just to add to that. I referenced in that same podcast that Established Run, which if you're into sports, if you probably, especially if you're in fantasy, you know who Adam and ETR is. The guest today said a couple things. One, when he was a parent now, when he was in high school, peers were paying like $1,500 an hour for SAT tutoring. That now you can get better tutoring with a $20 a month AI subscription. Like that's real. Like that is just one example. When you talk about education now, to Cap's point, will that lead to more homeschooling? Probably. I also think that then they're like, so what do you do as a parent? And again, this is just one person's advice, but they said, well, they're doubling down on like classical education, things like sports and social stuff, like because the actual education now is not yet like really like commoditized, but the reality is kids today have access to more information and better education than any generation that's come before them. The downside of that is they can get all this information without ever having to interact with another human being, and that's not necessarily great.
But as do we, though. So like,
True.
How much have you learned since school? Just podcasts. Like,
yeah,
you know, you take a minute and you're like, dude, I've learned substantially more than I ever learned in school. Just because like it's just there.
Mm-hmm.
And YouTube, what made YouTube so fucking fun in the beginning was discovery. It was like this massive knowledge unlock in a way. And I think the same is true for AI. And now it's like, you know, maybe it's a healthy mix of both. The biggest pitfall for me is that whole Wall-E syndrome of what happens when things are too easy. You know, you said you gave your kids cell phones probably too early. I didn't grow up with a cell phone, and I'm happy about that. I can't imagine having grown up with it, because I think had things been so easy, I would probably be complacent or lazy in a lot of places and wouldn't have worked through difficult things. I don't know, but there's definitely a concern with you know, opting for laziness, even when it comes to kind of educating yourself or working through problem solving or things like that. And the same is true for art, where unfortunately people prompt stuff and they think it looks good. And someone here mentioned, like, why would you, I think it was your kid, Outer, that mentioned like, oh, well, why would you learn watercolor if I could just prompt watercolor? Well, the reason for that is it's like saying, why would a coach ever have played the sport if he's going to coach, or he or she is going to coach that team? Having played the sport, you have a much deeper understanding of the nuances of what it is that's going to make you win the game, how to work with those players, etc. Right?
Yeah, that was exactly his point.
Yeah.
Is that like the AI is forcing to, he's actually the opposite in that like he's lamenting the fact that like it's
Getting robbed of
AI is
experiences.
missing that process part. It's
Yeah.
missing the experience of him doing the game and like forwarding him into a coach role without having played the game, because that's what is
But
happening.
then
Yeah.
it's his choice, right? And so, and unfortunately, that's where AI makes things crazy meritocratic, which means people have to make the active choice to search for knowledge, to better themselves, and to develop good taste. We talk about this all the time in the industry, and are we thinking about AI? Yeah, of course. Like we can't not, and we're building AI pipelines in house as well. But it's meritocratic in the sense that seniors and supervisors and people that run artistic teams normally do that because, one, they can either lead people, but what needs to be true is they have good taste. And most of the prompts that you see that raise an eyebrow, it's because the person has good taste. You can't teach good taste. It's something you develop unless you have like pure raw talent and an acumen for what makes things really appealing, uncanny. It's something that you develop over time. But in a system where it's very hard to hire juniors because you don't need them, you just need really good, like, senior level creative minds that can essentially direct a computer to do the job that like 100 people would do. It's very tough to develop juniors. So I'm not sure where it goes. I would like to think that there's still a system in place to bring on, employees that need coaching, or maybe they have to train themselves over time and survival. But I think it just becomes very survival of the fittest, and it's kind of a scary thought.
It's scary and exciting at the same time. And I can't think of any other time in my life where that's been exactly the case. Like, there's been scary moments. There's also been exciting moments, but it's rarely is it so exciting and scary. Like, it's back to the markets and the global uncertainty. I think this is at the crux of it is it's both at the same time. Things are, the future seems to be very exciting and potentially scary all at once. And as parents, like, what do you do? By the way, I did a little research. This is fake. If you look close at the video, this 3D printed boat, it's not real. The 3D printed arm's not moving. So I do believe I'm near certain it's fake. But my earlier point, what are we, a year away from this being reality? I mean,
You can 3D print a house. I mean, they're doing that
yeah,
now, all the foundation and stuff, like, all the time. So I like, that's why when you said 3D printed boat, I actually didn't think, like, I thought it could be real, because I feel like it's like in construction industry, it's already there. So I was like, I wouldn't put it past me if they could just like at least get the frame up pretty fast.
I mean, people are 3D printing car parts and plumbing parts, and like, that's very real today. Something like this, larger scale stuff, to Howard's point, there absolutely are 3D printing homes. This, can they 3D print a boat today? Yeah, probably. Exactly like this? No, this is a little bit hyperbole, a little bit embellished, but it's coming. Like, maybe not exactly like this, but it's only a matter of time before the printers get large enough and can print stuff like this. Maybe not this exact speed, not exactly like this, but this is where our world is heading. And we think so much here. I think when we're talking AI and vibe coding, so much is like software driven or digital world driven. I don't think there's enough people thinking about the impact that AI, 3D printing, and all this is going to have on the physical world. And while this probably isn't real, Outer, I'm going to ask you, we'll go back to Captain in a second, but I don't know if you can see this video or not, but even just if you can't, thinking about, like, does that make it less interesting because the video was AI generated? Or is it, to me, it's like, okay, yeah, it's fake or probably fake, but still interesting because we're like, now my brain, are we 6 months away from this being real? Are we 6 years away from being this real? Probably somewhere in between. I think good point earlier. Like, sometimes the fake stuff is just as interesting as something that.
Well, I think the
real.
question is, like, am I happy about this because I can just have my own boat? Or am I sad about this because I work in a shipyard and I don't have a job? Or is it even both? You know what I mean? Like, I think it's an interesting question to, like, consider the impact of that, like, depending on where you're coming from, because it's like, wait a minute, like, wait, are we already there that this machine just does this? So yeah, I don't know, but I haven't seen the video, but knowing it's AI is making me even more curious about seeing it.
Payne says it was real. It just took 140 hours. It was a time lapse, and so it's real. it's just not real that they're not printing that boat in a matter of seconds, which I knew it wasn't seconds, but I wouldn't have, like, if you would have asked, like, is it real? Just a timeless? Yeah, it probably took a few hours. It took 140 hours, so extreme time lapse. But to your point of like, am I happy or sad if I'm in the shipyard? I think the important thing is, and not to keep referencing the ETR conversation, but it was good. Like for a sports podcast, I thought it was very profound philosophically, and it was like, well, is it going to take jobs or eliminate some jobs at the shipyard? Yeah, but how many of those people that have worked at the shipyard have thought about building their own boat but have never had the resources to do so before? But now they can, or now they can soon. I just think, like, because the barrier of entry to starting a business, and actually not just, I mean, you can start a business for, depending on what state you live in, $125 probably or less, but actually building something, scaling a business is easier than it's ever been before. So hopefully a lot of those people that might find themselves without a job in the future, they're able to take their passion or what they've done for work and create.
And they'd be the best prompters, Cap, because
Exactly.
they're like back to the whole, like, coaching versus never playing the game. Like, if you've been building a boat and now you have AI to build it, you're going to be like super versed in prompting versus someone off the street who's never, like, doesn't know anything about boats.
100%. I believe those skills, boating is just built builders, is just one example, but from boat builders to plumbers to, everything in between, I do think those that have developed skills working years or decades in a profession, they've got a huge head start over someone like, I don't know how to build a boat. I don't know anything about a boat other than, I can drive one, but I wouldn't know where to begin to build a boat. And could I go figure it out and go back and forth with AI and help it educate me? Yeah, but I don't have my 10,000 hours in. To Cap's earlier point, like, I've consumed a lot of content. I'm far more educated today than I ever was in school because of content I've consumed. But I also, there's areas where I have an edge, is things that I did, like, kind of like the manual work, so to speak. And therefore, like, I'm able to learn faster. Go ahead, Cap, take it wherever you'd like.
It's so ironic. I was literally gonna, before you guys started, I was just gonna bring up exactly what Outer had said. I don't know how long ago, like 20 minutes ago, but it was basically like, if as Sora as the content less interesting, it's so funny because there's almost like a parallel with how people reacted to NFTs, like on Instagram. So the first time, can you guys hear me? Because I keep seeing my hand go up and down.
We got you. X is still a little buggy. We lost Outer from the stage. She'll probably be back here in a second. There we are. But yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, cool. But I remember when we first posted our videos on Instagram, and it looks like Disney, it basically competes, whatever. And some of the videos went viral. Some of the comments were like, I used to love this, like people that had followed us from like 2 videos prior, but now I found out it's an NFT project. Fuck that. Fuck you guys. And it's like all of a sudden, because it was an NFT project, it's like the content became less interesting to them. I think people are just allergic to change. That's just a natural human thing. It's like we're wired in our DNA to kind of resist that stuff and question. I think ultimately good content is good content, which is probably what differentiates a really strong, like, creative directed prompt versus an average prompt. And I think that right now, we're like, keep in mind when Pixar started doing what they were doing, like before Toy Story, the entire animation world was like, fuck those guys, like, unacceptable. 3D animation, it's going to take everybody's 2D jobs, blah, blah, blah. So there was even resistance to that, right? And I think it's just normal for people to question that. They're afraid of their jobs. The irony is when they like the content and then they know how it was done, and they're like, fuck that shit. Which is so ironic to me, because again, the only thing that matters is good storytelling. I think that AI to that end, AI as a tool is insanely empowering. There's a lot of weird videos out there, or a lot of like abstract ideas that are amazing that people are prompting. And I think that that's kind of a proof case where if you remove the barrier to execution and it's not a financial, there's no financial barrier to executing an idea, then the ideas will become richer. A lot of times what happens in our industry, like in the film industry or animation, is like a lot of people kind of mentally block themselves from thinking of something because it's too expensive to make, or like, or it's going to be, you know, if it's live action and it's going to be a huge VFX shot, you're kind of thinking like, fuck, like, okay, there's no way we can pull this off. Let's not even write it in. That goes away with AI. Like the only limit is your imagination, which probably creates an age of super creativity. Does that mean that every idea is good? No, but it does empower a lot of people that would have never had the chance. For example, an author that can't afford a team of artists to bring their pitch to life if they want to go make a movie or whatever, well, they can prompt a big part of the pitch and then bring it to a studio, or just go straight to crowdfunding, things like that, right? Super empowering.
I have a question.
Darren Aronofsky. Do you guys know about the whole recent Darren Aronofsky
I know Darren,
thing?
yes.
Yeah, well, so he is making an AI film, and everyone is hating on him for doing that. But if you know his catalog, like his ideas are insane. And so, of course, like, and he's doing this like really interesting piece. I forgot the name of it, but I think it's about like a war in maybe 1700s or 1800s. You have to like, I only know a little bit, but just to know that he's being flooded on it. But there's a trailer that came out and people are like, oh, super cringe. But he's like, you know, it would be insane for me to try to historically accurately produce this thing, you know. And now, as a big ideas person, he, you know, is saying like, I can just try and doing this. It doesn't mean I'm not going to make a real actor movie later. This is just something that I want to experiment with. But he's getting a lot of hate for it.
So, question back to Outer, and then I'd like to ask Cap the same question. And I see Acid's hand up. We'll get to you here in a minute. Appreciate your patience. Prompted kind of by Zane here in the chat, says regarding creative, AI is just a tool. If you're not creative, have mid taste, or don't know how to package your ideas for the platform or wherever you're sharing, AI won't save you. My question for both you is, for someone who doesn't consider themselves a creative, or they're not an idea person, like it's funny because actually, I'm not joking, like pre-Web3, pre this space, I never consider myself a creative or an artist, but I absolutely consider myself an idea person. I consider myself, I don't like, it sounds weird to say you consider yourself a visionary, but I saw the things I leaned into. I was right. Like I was forward looking and I nailed it. I was early to smartphones. I was early to phone repair, and I was able to benefit from that. Now I do consider myself more creative, largely because this space, maybe it's I'm more adjacent to artists and other creative individuals. You can be creative in a lot of different areas of your life. But my question, first we'll go Outer and then Cab, is like, for someone who doesn't consider themselves a creative, or maybe they are self-aware and I just have mid taste. How would you get ahead in this new world? What should they do to become more creative, to have better taste? Is that even possible? Outer?
I mean, that's a very interesting question, considering there's like the whole, you know, Carl Jung personality type stuff where like the question is, does everybody even need to be creative? Like maybe you don't. Maybe it's okay for you to live your entire life and like not be creative. Having said that, the definition of that is so vast. When we think of creativity, instantly it's just like a bunch of pencil crayons, go draw something. But that's not at all how creativity manifests. Like making some kind of like a, you know, a trading bot is still being creative. Making, you know, Claude bot is still being creative. So I think creativity really comes from like, what are the problems you're having day to day? People probably have them too. If we're not talking about the like, you know, creative in the art world sense and more. But like recently, Divide shared a really interesting AI written sci-fi story. It kind of bordered Pantheon, which is a really awesome show you should all watch. But nonetheless, he's like, I did not enjoy this less because AI wrote this story. In fact, I enjoyed it more given that it's sci-fi. But somebody prompted that, right? So like, I don't know. I think I think it was Zane that said like the tooling is there. So have a conversation about creativity if you're feeling a little bit weird about being creative. Like, I think the biggest thing is to switch yourself from consumption mode to production mode, and however that manifests. Because every single time you wake up in the morning, you have that choice. And the choice is, do I consume or do I produce? Yep. And producing is a harder choice to make.
Certainly is. Payne adds, AI is only as good as its prompter, which Zane follows up. You can totally develop taste and get better at packaging ideas. you just can't simply prompt your way into it, in his opinion. He mentions he uses AI to mock up thumbnails to pitch to clients, designers, but if he didn't know what to mock up and just asked AI, it would just create the worst slop ever. Cab, same question for you. If someone doesn't consider themselves creative, or if they're self-aware and they're not the idea person.
Dude, I was gonna stop you midway, and I reflect everything that the Outer said. Dude, it's a muscle. It's just working out. And I think people's understanding of creativity is, I love the way Outer said it, but it's like it's a bunch of crayons and pencils and shit like that. Creativity, I think, just means not following the norm, or thinking a little bit outside the box, or even just thinking critically when you're doing something. Like, when I don't really do any of the art anymore at the Klanos level, my job is now to give the creator space and be more a part of the marketing and BD team. That's a different form of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
The way you host your show, the way you change your voice when you're talking, the way you think about the things you're going to say to make it more interesting for the people listening, that's a form of creativity. And so, sorry, go for it.
No, I was just saying, also learn skill. Like, I appreciate the kind words, but voice inflection, I didn't even know what the word meant, I don't know, 25 years ago. And it was trained. It was, someone shared that with me. It was actually a Zig Ziglar. I'm not even going to say it on stage because it doesn't hold up. It's not going to land well because of the topic he used. But basically, he said a sentence. It was the same words, but he said it 7 different ways on what word he emphasized, and it meant 7 different things. Same exact words.
It's
7 different things
because you develop naturally, dude. And again, it's just by working out and seeing people's reactions and then doing it different each time until you find kind of the way to do it. The point is, creativity is so abstract. I think that what's tough is producing is not for everybody, which is why I think that even though we know that kids have crazy access to AI, not every one of them are going to want to produce stuff the same way. That's like saying back in the day when we were making maps in like Unreal Tournament and Call of Duty and whatever, like because we can, everyone should be making that. No, that's like, it's still reserved for nerds, or people that want to be doing it. I would say that just focus on something that excites you and then work toward that end. And if you can inject AI into that workflow, then do it. If it makes sense, if there are redundancies, if there are places you could be more efficient, and over time, you're going to develop creative skills anyways, because creativity might come from different ways to manage other people, or it might come from thinking about how consumers will like your product more, or whatever it is, right? And even cooking, right? That's a form of creativity. So there's like a million things. I know my answer is a little bit abstract, but I think really it boils down to find something you want to do and then repetition, man. Wax on, wax off.
Yeah, well said. And I think the other thing, like unpacking this conversation, there's no right answer other than use the tools, be familiar with it, and experiment and explore things that you're curious about, things that you enjoy, things that you're passionate about. Speaking of, I think it's a good segue, a good setup for Brad and just doing a thing here in a second. But before we do this, I saw Acid hand up. Acid, go ahead.
Yeah, appreciate it. So I got 2 things. So as far as what you're talking about now with creativity, I believe even the smallest things, well, like as far as humans, how we are, we can be creative at everything, right? But we can't control everything, if you know what I mean. But we try to. It's how people are generally. So like you can be creative with time, money, energy, like your vibe, all of that. It's all creativity. So it is right. It isn't endless, like someone said, it's just everything in general is kind of dumb. But it's not dumb, it's smart too. Second thing was about the conversation before about AI and movie things like that. I was going to say, so low key, I'm an impressionist, right? I've got about 50, 60 voices I could do. Oh, wow. But I was wondering, like, people like, where would I go with AI with that?
Good question. Hey, it's a talent.
You can coach it. You would know if the intonations are wrong. You would know if the cadence is wrong. You would become a director, essentially, if it was something you'd want to leverage. Because I get asked the same question by like animators or animation supervisors. It's like, where does it go? Well, typically your job when you start to supervise or when you're a conductor for a voice actor, I understand it's a little bit different, but you become a director. So I think a lot of voice actors who are really skilled at their jobs are going to have good taste and are going to be able to make a decision whether the product is ready for people or not. Meaning, doesn't need to be reprompted, doesn't need to be tweaked a little bit. It's a quality control thing, but it's a creative direction thing.
Yeah, I love that advice. And this is, I think, a great example driving home what we're talking about today is at first it didn't hit me like how could you take that skill and maximize it, leverage it in this world? And there it is. Like you now all of a sudden you become the tastemaker. You become like your ability to do it. You're going to much more quickly recognize, okay, yeah, that was accurate. That was good versus me. While I might understand voice inflection, I'm not a good impressionist. Every time I try, it's almost funny because it's so bad and so not accurate. I think you probably, if you can speak it, you probably have a much better ear for, oh yeah, that was spot on. That was exactly like Morgan Freeman or Samuel L. Jackson.
Yo, I have an idea, bro. How about I give you a quick reset with a different voice?
Go for it.
Welcome to Vibe Coding and Parenting in the AI Channel. Coffee with Captain number 1098 and the other duckers. This here is not a copyrighted voice. I'm gonna say my name is Steamboat Willie, but I'm here, everybody. And I can't talk about Pluto or anybody else. I don't want to get sued by everybody, so make sure you share the room, put a comment below, and stick your butt down, everybody.
We get a little Steamboat Willie on Coffee with Captain. I did not have that on my bingo card, but here we are. On the topic of just on vibe coding and just building things, if you missed it, I did pin an article up top from the one and only Bread introducing .mega domains, an on-chain, cross-chain MegaETH name service built solo in his free time over 7 days, entirely vibe coded with OpenClaw, Crumb. This would have taken a 3-man team weeks a year ago. Here's how he did it and what it is. I pinned that article up top. And Brad, by all means, if you wanted to go a different direction, feel free to do so. But perfect time today, based on the conversation we've gotten into, to talk about just building things. And before actually like what you built, what prompted, pun intended, what prompted you to go down this arc? You obviously know devs. You've got a lot on your plate. You're busy. You're helping build MegaETH. What was the inspiration behind, hey, making the decision to just do it now? What was the inspiration behind, hey, others are doing this, now's my time, I'm just going to build things. I'm going to build something. GM.
Thanks for the intro. I would say the inspiration is largely derived from being the person that you are, first is that, but like I'll dive into that. And I want to answer another question before you say, like, how do tasteless people get taste with this thing? And honestly, the answer to that, also AI. Because like I feel like you and I have a very similar archetype. And I also don't think I'm especially artistic. Although I do think I'm artistic, I don't think I'm especially like design oriented. And for that, like to build this website and shit, like I literally just use AI to build the tools to help you inspire stuff and makes it imagine. Like you can find things through that to help inspire. Because I wouldn't have come up with that site design and everything else by myself. I had to get inspiration elsewhere. But to like answer your questions, like why I ended up doing that is because I, like you, have feel like I can see stuff. I can see bones. I can do a bunch of shit. And I've been trying to empower people inside of our ecosystem to build things. And I had come across several things. I was like, hey, this is cool. Hey, this is cool. Hey, this is cool. And in the past, I would have to go to recruit friends, technical friends, and say, hey, man, like, I really think there's an opportunity here. Like, I see this thing. Someone should mash these things together and just fucking do it. And I even did that here with this instance where I found stuff and I forwarded it to people inside of the ecosystem. And I was like, hey, you guys should go and like build this, do this, play with it. And because I had been building developer tools, like AI developer tools, that's attached there to GitHub for just like skills and shit. I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna like see if I can do this. And ultimately, like, was just really surprised at my own progress. Like, I took all this stuff, it started coming together, and it came together really fast. And I was like, okay, I guess this is going to be a thing because I was able to actually accomplish everything. I was doing my own testing. I was, iterating a lot. And I guess I just kind of surprised myself and how much I could actually ship. And I just saw it all the way through because well, fuck it, I can do it now. And that's how I came up with the multiple man team over the course of, several weeks, because I've done that. Like I've built projects, I've run dev teams, I've done that stuff. I'm like, okay, for this project, I would need a dev for smart contract work. I would need a dev for the front end. I would need maybe a separate dev potentially for the back end, but usually they can blend a little bit. They need to work together, and I need to get them excited about it. And I need them to have carve out time for me, and I need to pay them, and I need to. And here I was just like, nah, just me and my agent, like properly armed. You have to like actually give it the right information, but you understand the bones and you can pull it together. And it's really capable.
Really impressive. Congratulations. Congratulations on shipping what I mean, it's you. Maybe people would oh, this was all vibe coded. I mean, it looks like it's professionally done. It works. It's a real functioning dApp on MegaETH, and it's got the website's good. Like it's simple, it's minimalistic. It looks like probably better than a lot of comparable websites from earlier name domains that you might have seen years ago. And this is to Brad's point, he vibe coded it in a week. It's so congrats on taking the leap. Congrats on shipping something. It's there, and there's a lot here. Like if you look at the article that I had pinned up top, like we talk about part of, I think, where people get stuck, raising my hand here, self included, is there's so many specific use case tools in the world of AI. So many different things. Like, could you do this whole thing with just Claude or just Open? Yeah, probably. Maybe. I don't know, actually. I shouldn't say that. But I guess the point is there's a lot of specific tools that are just better, that are, case in point here is Variant UI. I've had Variant on my AI tools watch list for a while, but didn't truly dabble until this. It's specifically tuned for design. So for those of you that, like Brett and I, that may not, count design or creative design at the top of our, one of our strengths, tools like this can help you improve there. It can help you be better and take your ideas and make them better looking ideas, more creative design with some of these really fine-tuned tools. I guess take it whichever direction you like. I also have the post from Ross.we that you took for inspiration. So I'll pin that up top as well. It's in the full article, but this was, use WNS or we names was an alternative namespace on Ethereum, like .eth, but in this case, they resolve into the .we domain. You can receive crypto with it. Like, anything you'd like to share about the site itself and what makes, I mean, I know the answer why on Mega, but what would make a .mega domains different than other on-chain identities? Why, if someone's looking for an on-chain identity, why might they want to go? And maybe the answer is all. It's an and, not an or. But what makes .mega domains different than some of the other on-chain domains or on-chain identities?
Yeah, so there's two things. Like, one is like it's not meant to be a competitor necessarily. Like, one, I think like it's just important culturally for allowing chains to have their own identity, right? You see .sols, you see .eth. Like, I just think it's an important, impactful thing within an ecosystem. And again, the main point for me to do it was just to show that it could be done situation. Like, I want to inspire people. I wanted to make sure the tools that I was building, like for people to do this kind of stuff, to experiment, are capable of actually shipping stuff. So it was proof of concept for me as well. But then, and also, I know the common report I got was like, oh, bro, we already have ENS. Well, actually, guys, ENS v2 is coming in. You can actually resolve these local domains too. It's actually required to have something like this in order to integrate with ENS v2. So ENS v2, that's the plan. I'm going to use the funds to actually acquire some domains and tie into that. So anything that resolves an ENS domain name will resolve a .mega name. And just now we have a cultural point for people inside of our ecosystem to have their own thing and build their own stuff and associate Mega to their name. So I think that's important. And then for actual differences, I did actually I took the base from Ross. Ross created the way domains. Ross is a good developer inside of the Ethereum ecosystem. Someone I really respect because he just constantly ships experimental, fully on-chain stuff and then open sources it. It's just really he's a really badass dude. And I took that base and I iterated on a little bit because in in a fast ecosystem like MegaETH, you actually with this model, the thing I have is subdomains for a given name. I made it so that you can have one, you have infinite subdomains. Two, you can actually restrict the subdomain creation to particular holders, right? So like if I have bread.mega, I can say only people who hold, like, let's say a bread NFT, one of my bread NFTs or 1,000 of my bread URC20 tokens, they can come and they can mint a free subdomain, right? So they can get, toast.bread. Whatever. I can just do it directly on the site. Or I can, again, mint infinite of them and send them out to people. And I was thinking about this with the proliferation of embedded wallets. It's actually pretty annoying, right? Every site you go to, you get a separate wallet. You don't actually know what's going on. And I minted a bunch of the project names for all the teams inside of the MegaETH ecosystem, and most of them use embedded wallets. And I gave them to them ahead of time. And thinking on it, I'm like, well, now these teams, Stomp is an on-chain game with an embedded wallet. Like now, Stomp can say, hey, when someone comes to their site and signs up with Captain or Zwiggly, whatever your Twitter handle is, and you get your embedded wallet, they can instantly, because it's cheap and because you have infinite of these things, you can instantly spin up a subdomain and assign it to the wallet so that in the future you have captain.stomp.mega, right? Like so it's human readable right out the gate. It's just something that they can do. And actually the creator that's now iterating, because it's like kind of like an on-chain Pokemon game, he's like now, because he has these infinite, cheap, quickly associatable domains, you can actually he can like let you guys create Pokemon or Mons, whatever, and then name them and give them their own subdomain, because it's cheap, it's free, it's fast, and there's a lot you can do creatively there. I also plugged in a marketplace for it, so if you get a high level domain, which you can actually get down to 1 and 2 characters, so you can do o.mega for Omega, and then you can sell subdomains. You can just say, hey, give me $10 and you can mint a subdomain. So I made it like a marketplace within the actual subdomain realm there, just to have fun. And you can nest it down to 10, so you can do up to 10 subdomains of a subdomain. So it can get kind of crazy, but they're all ERC 721s that you can go and fuck around with.
Very cool. And thank you, because, not only inspiring builders on Mega, it's like, I take inspiration from this. Like, this is we've said, like, if you want to build something, there's really very few things that would hold you back from building something now in today's age. It really is. If you can think of an idea, like, you can create it with the help of these tools, these resources, and there's example after example after example. Yes, something like OpenClaw is on the extreme side of the example. .mega domains, not saying it's nothing. It's very much something. You can see it just launched, and there's already almost $10,000 of domains purchases. 2,600 have been registered on MegaETH. It's inspiring other builders, not just on MegaETH, but really anywhere on chain. Like, if you have an idea, ship it. Attempt to ship it. My question back to Brad, and then we'll hand it to Outer. Culturally speaking, how, I have a guess, I have an idea, but how was this received by the leadership at MegaETH? Whereas, like, you see, I believe side projects, doing things outside of your core 40, 50, 60-hour work week are not only inevitable as we move forward. I think it's individuals that are doing this sort of stuff, whether it's for the business or supporting or adjacent to the business or not, I think it's going to be celebrated, not shunned. Like, I'm old enough to remember where if you were an entrepreneur, you were in some organizations viewed you as that was a problem. That was something that you almost had to, like, not talk about, because the employer might say, oh, this person's not focused 100% on their work. But again, that's my question. Like, culturally, how was this received at MegaETH? Is this sort of stuff encouraged, supported? Did you get any pushback?
No, none whatsoever. So, like, I even, like, the process of it was, I was doing it on my own just to, like, test out the shit, right? Like, I was doing it personally. And then after I realized that I actually had a product, like, it was actually working, it was done, it was tested, and it was just my own, like, personal side project just to see if I could do the thing. And whenever I was like, man, this, like, I think I'm going to ship this thing, I went internally and I was like, guys, I created this thing, and, like, what do we do with it? Do you guys, like, do we enshrine this thing? Do we make it part of Mega Team, or, like? And frankly, we were all so busy with everything else. I got some reception. People were like, yeah, that's cool, like, interesting, whatever. And then I was just like, all right, fuck it, I'm shipping this thing. It's like, I'm not going to wait around. And once I shipped it and drew up the actual article, and like the article does it, like it details what I want to do. Right? Like we're trying to foster an ecosystem. I'm trying to showcase that one, people can do this, and two, we welcome experimentation, and three, like just like I'm trying to like grow everything. So whenever I did post that article, you know, we get a little Twitter headline of developer on MegaETH ships service in 7 days and blah blah blah, and the little sidebar, and everyone got really excited and everyone was happy about it. They thought it was cool. Now we're actually integrating it into a bunch of our products, so like it's already natively getting pushed into everything else. And so buy-in was good, team reception was good. They encouraged it, and and like I also wanted to do it to drive some like actual usage of our data stable points. Like I embedded that as opposed to like doing it in the native the gas token. So yeah, they're super encouraging. They're happy about it, and they're pushing it with me. So it's been fun.
Awesome. I love it. Bullish, MegaETH. Yes, I'm biased, but it's the team, how they're building, who they're building with. Like all those things matter a lot, in my opinion, and really excited to continue to see the growth and development there. Outer, go ahead. Thoughts or questions for Brett?
Yeah, I had a question for Brett. I'm wondering how important it was to you to audit your vibe coding work, and if you did that, or if you created a contract auditor through AI, or if you actually had a dev audit.
Yeah, so I did not audit. So I worked from a base that was audited, and I manipulated it, right? Because I added some stuff, and I basically just ran it back through a bunch of separate LLMs that were all adversarial. So like I had the one which is my Crumb created, and then at points I would stop and I'd say now exploit it, now exploit it, now exploit it, now exploit it. So like there's that. And then I would have separate agents that were totally unassociated to it. Say, hey, this is a contract, this is a construction, this is what we understand about it. Go exploit it, go exploit it, go exploit it. So you do a lot of that stuff. And then the reason I was okay shipping it is because a lot of the stuff you can actually like fairly confidently like say about the functions, because this isn't a DeFi protocol that is going to have hundreds of millions of dollars locked in a single contract that I don't have control. So like the fees, like the actual dollars that people are worried about, like that immediately gets forwarded to a separate safe that has like a vault that's out of control of everyone. The agent doesn't see it. I have access to it. I created it with a multi-sig. So if anything were to go awry, like I'm stockpiling the fees for it. Like if anything were to go awry and shit breaks, I have the funds in my hands, totally separate from everything. Man, I'll refund everyone. It will just go our separate ways. So I'm okay with if NFTs are lost or subdomains get kind of weird, or something happens, that like I can manually resolve it on my own accord.
Great.
But I would definitely audit if it was bigger and financially forward. Yeah, for sure.
And great question though. I think it's very like we talk about OPSEC here, and hey, don't click random links. Make sure that it may seem like a non-risky thing. There is protocol risk, there is smart contract risk, and while .mega domains may not have a large amount of risk, I think it's a great reminder that before you start aping in funds into new protocols or new smart contracts.
I mean, we all know nobody wants to have Quit make fun of you. Like that's let's be real. Like the question behind the question is like, is it about everyone's safety or is it about being on Quit's timeline? I don't know what's worse. I'm just kidding.
Both. But it's a very important reminder that both if you're developing stuff, especially if it's something where there's people are going to be putting funds and capital at risk, take the extra step and whether it's you test it, you have the AIs exploit it, or you go to someone like Quit and seek an audit. One of our sponsors we're going to announce soon, really excited about. That's the only reason, or not the only reason, but part of the, not delay necessarily, but why they've not launched yet is they're going through extensive audits, because there is more at risk when it comes to NFTs or funds, and they want to make sure that it's really, really buttoned up and they run it through the appropriate testers. We've got about 20 minutes left here. Really enjoying the conversation on vibe coding and building as a non-technical today. Markets have been kind of popping off. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking specifically some NFTs. Majors, cryptos, kind of choppy, nothing really too exciting. But we've seen quite a bit of movement and some things to maybe get excited about in the NFT land. I actually have minted more NFTs, not a ton, but I've minted more NFTs in the past week than I probably have in any week for a while. Some fun, low cost free mints on MegaETH. Some ones pulled that Net Citizens pulled back a little bit. There was another free mint yesterday that Joey found in the war room, and I ended up sweeping eight. I tried to sweep 10, and I ended up getting 8 because of the floor got bought. But it feels like there might be some momentum and excitement coming back in the NFT land. The real winner of the last month or so has been Del Mundo's, up to 0.15. Seems like it might have been yesterday. It was at 0.1. It's up another 61% on the day, and just continues to run. Not only are we seeing the floor price go up, but I think a good indicator there of collectors collecting, they're above floor. The above floor buys are back. This was similar. We saw this with Good Vibe Club, which is again up once again on the day, up another 9.5% to 0.93. They flew through the big sell wall that was created by that strategy program initially, and it seems to me like 1 ETH is programmed, and the sky might be the limit there. See the same thing with that collection. A lot of sales above floor. Del Mundo's continue to push higher. This is from Carl here. 2 things stick out. Buying pressure has been continuous, increasing with floor price rising, and buys above floor also increasing over 20%, which is a great sign for long-term stability. I would agree. In talking about collectors collecting, there was a MegaETH that sold not once, but twice in the last 24 hours. First sold for, this is MegaETH here, 9938, sold for 14.25, just under $30,000. And then that was yesterday, about almost 24 hours ago. And then it's resold just 5 hours ago for 16 ETH. It's been a while since we've seen stuff like that. Someone flipping a rare NFT for almost a 2 ETH gain in less than a day. Yeah, I was a little bit shocked at the 14 ETH.
Are they special in the other side, the MegaETH? Like, is there anything special about it?
Good question. So they have a weapon, which is somewhat special. But as far as like the megas themselves, it was either 100 or 300 of these. I should know the exact number. I'm not sure the total number. It is the rarity is number 85. But I don't know the answer.
I think there's 1,000. I thought there was 1,000 megas.
Really?
But
I didn't think. Wow, that's.
Isn't it? Or was it 100? I thought it was 1,000. Oh my God! Wait, look this up, please. Now I want to know.
I also don't know if that's so yeah, Mega is a trait. The current floor on MegaETH is 25 ETH. So that one sold for 14, resold for 16. Now, if you want to go buy one off floor, it's 25 ETH just for, and then it jumps to 39 and then 420. I'm looking for, let me see here. Mega trait is 87 have been moved over. So I think 100 then. So there's 87 have been decoupled from their deed. There's still, I'm guessing, 13 remaining that haven't been decoupled. So yeah, it looks like 100 of these total in the collection. And don't go out there making crazy speculative bets on $30,000+ assets. It's more so, I'm not gonna say it's NFT bull is back, but and maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while since I felt or seen this sort of activity like we've seen with Good Vibes and others. It's not just Good Vibes, but they, I think over the last year, have been a big winner in this area where collectors are collecting. They've really leaned into badges. By the way, speaking of badges, real quick, I pinned it up top earlier. There's a Klano badge. I should have mentioned when Cab was on the show, but I did pin it up top. There's a Klano badge that I think has a few hours left around celebrating the Chinese New Year. But it's been a while since we've seen multiple sort of sales above. Also, it's not lost on me that they're royalty protected. Therefore, you're not having, imagine that, I'm pro royalties once again. You're not having the farmers aren't buying these. They're not both Del Mundo's, Good Vibes Club, MegaETH is now. People aren't farming these for marketplace points because there's greater royalty. I think Del Mundo's might even be a 10% royalty. So imagine that, it's up 60% of the day, up to nearly a free mint to 0.15 floor with a 10% royalty. And people want to say royalties are bad. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand why more brands haven't migrated to royalty protected contracts. More on that soon. Might be a little bit of foreshadowing, but I'm not going to go there today. The other, well, I'll do a quick share quick glimpse of some of these other NFTs. And if anyone has any thoughts, comments, or wants to add to it, feel free to do so. Pudgy's flat at 4.32. As I mentioned, Del Mundo is the big winner, up 61% of the day. Mini Minds is a new one, 0.01 ETH. Good Vibes Club, as I mentioned, up almost 10% to 0.93. Hypers are flat. Mutants down slightly at 0.88. They were one of the most recent Death Star targets. Codas, not just the big sales, up 4% of the day to 0.73. Milady's up 3% to 1.3. Little Pudgies down 1% to 0.52. Doodles down 7.8% to 4.47. However, there was speaking of sweeps, there was 4 Doodles swept for 9 ETH total. Some pretty rare ones here. A flower, I don't know what this is, a devil, and then the cat is really rare. So I saw some rare sales in that Doodles collection, and just seeing what seems to me, even though the Mega Coda it was reflipped, my read is collectors are collecting again. It's not so much farming marketplace point systems or marketplace rewards, but we're actually seeing collectability come back in NFTs a little bit. Again, it's going to look very different than the last Mania, but it's exciting as a collector, as someone who enjoyed NFT mints and revealing rares, and that for a period of time that became like almost irrelevant. Like people just didn't care. People are caring again, and I think it's good for collectibles, both the physical and the digital ones. But Outer, any other thoughts on NFTs? Does this get you? Should I dust off my NFT minting shoes? Does this move the needle for you at all when you see some of these sales above floor and some of these collections moving? Does it do anything from I'm going to start paying a little closer attention to NFT mints and maybe some collections I've had my eyes on?
Yesterday, I was browsing a few older collections, like 2021 collections, and I noticed one that was for sale that is actually like one that I initially got the day of the mint. And first of all, it was wild to see, like, in its history and provenance, that I was the owner. And I got it, but I got it, I think, for 0.2, and I sold it for 4 ETH. And now it was sitting on the floor ish. And I'm like, is there like something for the memes in my mind to like buy back the thing that I like got rid of? And then I went to a few other collections where I made some okay profits to see if those are available to like return back to me. So I know it's not directly answering your question, but I definitely spent some time in nostalgia NFT land yesterday, looking at things that were once in my possession that I flipped, now I'm like, well, everything's down way more, so maybe I want to put them back in my collection as like memorabilia of some kind. It's kind of neat to have something find its way back to you. On the new front, to be honest, I haven't been paying attention because I don't know. Like I figure I'd have to see it on my timeline, not on like OpenSea's feature page or whatever. So if I see it on my timeline, maybe, but I haven't really. Maybe I've done just a good job of curating it, but my timeline is mostly articles about how people vibe code things and also a ton of art. And I'm always happy about having like art things. But yeah, I minted there's an artist that does like the class of NFTs and puts everybody's PFPs in there that reply. So I was in the 2025 class, so I picked that up. And then I don't know. There's nothing to me that's like particularly inspiring right now about PFP culture that I want, or even like a reason to get into it. Like some of it feels too late, if that makes sense. Like you know what I mean? Like I've never had an Azuki, but like getting one now, what does that mean? Do I go in the Discord? Do I like what does it mean for me to get into a project now? Besides maybe like anything that has to do with the other side, because I guess you get the avatar and you go into the other side with it. But like, I hate to bring up the word utility, but even outside of utility, like what does it mean to join a PFP project today? Maybe that's my back question to you, Cap, in terms of like watching these things. Aside from getting into something early and minting it and flipping it, which I'm kind of like, okay, whatever, that's fine. I think if anybody's paying that much attention, that's wonderful. Take your profits. But like, what does it mean to get an OG project? now if you've never been in the ecosystem? Doesn't it feel like it's too late? Am I the only one?
Yes and no. Like I agree with where you're at. I'm kind of the same boat. Like, and I don't think utility is a dirty word. I wish more teams would lean into it. And I'm not talking about, magical free internet money. Rather, holder alignment. What perks and utility can I get for collecting this thing beyond just a collectible nature? That said, I think you talked about the nostalgic piece and going and maybe rebuying some things that you had minted. Like, maybe that's not for everyone, but for the collectors out there, I get it. Swiv actually on the Klaynos team tweeted this out yesterday, I think. I'll read, maybe paraphrase here, but I think it's spot on. He says, I've been thinking about this for a while. A few recent events helped tie it together for me, highlighting one of the aspects that makes NFTs special. The Pokemon card that just sold for 16.5 million is no longer just a Pokemon card. It has lore and history attached, which makes it even more special. Kind of similar how there will be a bucket of baseballs, but when one of those just happens to be the 73rd home run by Barry Bonds in 2001, that ball is transformed instantly. NFTs are no different. Their value can ebb and flow based on holders' experience as well as the team's performance, similar to the analogy of a rookie card that gains its value on a player's career. I'm interjecting here. I would just add to that with NFTs, what makes it cooler and better on chain is it's not just the performance of the rookie card or the player or the team, but what journey did that specific card take or specific digital asset take? Who held it? Is there more lore behind it? And I think because it's on chain, the ability to have added lore beyond just the team is very real. He says it can also go both ways. He heard me say on Coffee with Captain a few weeks ago, where I was talking about NFT that I held, and I said it used to be a grail, and it made him think, was it ever a grail, or is a grail status something that can ebb and flow? Another thing that happened recently where a project he really loved, the art, launched a collection that was basically a rug. I don't feel the same about that art anymore. It kind of ruined it for me. But it can highlight how an NFT can change in a way. The Stego is a good example. It's super dear to my heart, holds a lot of Crimson Clan lore. A few people understand. I hopefully never sell it. Just like my PFP, NFTs store memories on chain, and I couldn't be more bullish. I'll take a beat there. Thoughts on that, Outer?
Yeah, you just gave me an idea of what I want to vibe code. Stay tuned, though. I'm not saying anything. I'll just launch it, and we can talk about it next week. This is a great conversation.
I love it, and I'm not even joking. I added a note in the show docket today. I've been talking. I haven't kicked it off yet. I thought about the idea of like doing one trade a day as a segment and just bringing you along my journey. Some days it may just be buy. I bought Bitcoin today. It would be kind of boring, but the note I put today was one AI skill per week, and Outer's going to kick it off with, has the idea today on Coffee with Captain, and by next week we'll have an MVP of whatever she vibe codes and continues to grow a skill. The best lore maybe ever in NFT history is I once minted or maybe bought on secondary and held for a moment in time an Apimon egg, to which I then sold that Apimon egg for I think 0.2 ETH, which gave me the liquidity to mint a couple of extra Bored Apes, including the PFP I have. The buyer of that Apimon egg was one and only Von Frunton, who then would later capitulate and sell that Apimon egg. If you weren't here at that time, these Apimon eggs it was like, think of like a blind box on chain, and there was a CryptoPunk in one of these eggs. And so I was chasing the grail item, but I decided I wanted to sell it, wanted the liquidity, and minted some apes. Turned out okay. Von Frunton would capitulate on that Apimon egg, which then I would later track down and buy and gift it to him, so he can always remember that my PFP he was partially responsible for by buying that Apimon egg rug off me, a kid. But it's a true story. Grail of all grails there.
Those are the best stories. My mutant, which I still have, is a similar vibe. I spent like 4 hours picking the traits I wanted, and I got it. And then I went into some random space that Phil was hosting, and he happened to have the previous owner, the only other owner who minted that mutant, on the space. So when I showed up wearing it as my PFP, Ben was like, "That's my mutant," and I literally was like, "No, it's not. It's now my mutant." So like, we still chat once in a while, but that was just so hilarious to pop into a random space because I didn't even know Phil yet at the time, and meet the previous owner of the token I just bought. Like, when does that happen? That was wild.
It is wild, and maybe it's too early for provenance and that on-chain history to mean anything other than those were involved. For instance, I've said many times, while I'm pro royalties, and I think most existing NFT PFP brands in particular should migrate to a royalty protected contract. Of all the thousands of NFTs I hold, the one that I really care about provenance is my PFP because I minted it and it's never been sold. And it means something to me more so than it will anyone else. Now, do we hit a point where that on-chain lore means something to others? Does it that it increase? Like VFriends did this early with the Gary owned originals, and it's a trait. Like if Gary owned it at one point, and for those that are deep in that VFriends or the Gary V community, that carries weight. They carry a premium. They mean something in the collectible world. I think there's more there, but just as we talk about, real good IP takes decades to develop, as does any meaningful provenance beyond any personal emotional connection or any personal nostalgia. But I think there's something there, and I think it's one specific area where it's very hard to like the Pokemon that sold for 16.5 million. Is everyone going to know the story behind that? Yeah, but that's a really rare example when you talk about physical cardboard that you can actually track down the full provenance. Even still, you could say like, well, someday maybe they swap it for another. Although I think it's the only one of that grading that exists. So maybe a bad example. But point being, that's very rare in the physical world. Much more realistic, much more. All these the on-chain data is stored for all these NFTs and in a very real benefit of on-chain assets, on-chain digital collectibles. Two other quick thoughts. Outer, I know you got to get out of here at 10, and we will finish close to on time today. Let everyone get on with the rest of their day. As always, we'll be back Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Join us again tomorrow. If you haven't yet subscribed over on YouTube, can't recommend that enough. We're going to be doing some fun things for our community member of the month, and you're going to want to be a subscriber over there if you want to participate in that. A couple things, just quick flyovers in passing as we get out of here. Just saw this shared that Farouk is heading to Mar-a-Lago, some big World Liberty Forum with global leaders. 400 senior executives and policymakers confirmed for tomorrow's meeting from World Liberty Financial. A bunch of speakers revealed. Who knows? Maybe it's a nothing burger, but a lot of hype and talk around that. And then on today's topic, kind of wanted to tie the whole thing together. This is a quote tweet from Tom Goodwin, who says 80% of my meetings act like AI doesn't exist. The other 20% act like it's the apocalypse or about to immediately change everything. Almost none sit in the rational middle. To which Michael Miraflor replied or quote tweeted, "This is true. And quite frankly, the people who are likely to be disrupted the most in the next wave are the ones talking about it the least." But that makes sense, mostly because they are still employed W-2 workers and busier than ever. Reference his K-shaped white collar crisis for point of view, with work and life, mid-career and mid-life, still on the routine, and because it's not harvest season yet. This is the part of the reason why I buy a lot into Andrew Yang's opinion on what the societal reaction will be as dominoes continue to fall. Double income W-2 with a mortgage and a couple of kids in the burbs do not care that you're canceling your weekend plans to monitor your agent situation. Why would they? But when their lives are disrupted, when one and then the other W-2 job is threatened or lost because of AI, that's when things will get really ugly, because you cannot reasonably maintain that lifestyle without corporate benefits. Once those middle and upper class economics go sideways, that's when things will get crazy and everyone will feel it, because the societal strata has enough economic spending power and enough political influence and enough numbers to turn in election. I'm also starting to believe that allegiance to a party is very low when the stakes are high. Look at the switch into a narrative over the past month. If you know, you know. This cohort witnessed the destruction of blue-collar workforce throughout their lives and followed the playbook. If I do this, college, white-collar profession, etc., that would not be my fate. And for a couple of decades, it was true. When there is a sudden realization that that it's their turn, there will be such a feeling of betrayal that the backlash will be something that we'll probably haven't felt in a political sense before. This is also the last generation of people in history who still remembers the world, what the world was like before the internet. So the bag goes deep. The alliances across cohorts with similar grievances make for a broad coalition. Maybe a new political party comes out of this. Everything in the downstream of economics, everything is downstream of the cost of housing. Everything now is the downstream of AI. And now those things will be a tangled mess, a ticking time bomb of sorts. Maybe a little too much hyperbole, maybe a little too even wading into the political streets. But I probably could have stopped with the first part where 80% of the people are ignoring it, acting like it's not happening. The other 20% are so extreme that it's ending the world, or this, if you don't do this, like probably somewhere in between. But I think the thing most people can agree on, those that aren't ignoring it, is change is happening and at a pretty rapid clip. And hopefully you took something out of the day's conversation that inspired you to go, if not vibe code an app between now and next Tuesday, like Outer is, experiment, learn a new AI skill, check something else out new. Outer, I know it's 10, you got a heart out. Any closing thoughts or final words?
No, thanks for having me. And yeah, I don't know, just again, think about your day and how much of it you're consuming versus producing. Because I think reshifting that balance might be a good thing to do, even if it's not daily, but maybe it's even part of your week where you have a day of production. And I think that habit will change your outlook on what you're producing, and it doesn't have to be anything huge. Like, the idea isn't to be like, I'm going to build a company right now and exit. Like, that's not it. But just to choose to output versus input, I think will have a huge and very interesting and relevant, with what's happening in the world, impact on, I think, daily life.
Yep. Well said. Wholeheartedly agree. Thank you for joining us today. Always a pleasure. I am excited at some point to actually do a deep dive on Night of Seven Kingdoms, but we'll save that to avoid any spoilers. But yeah, maybe it's not a daily thing. Maybe you're not at a point where you feel you can produce more than you could consume, but start producing something. Maybe it's once a week. Like you said, you have a production hour that you're power blocking out of your day, and you're going to just attempt to learn some new skills, attempt to experiment with something new. The worst that comes out of it is you waste an hour of your time. I don't think that'll be the case. I think it probably leads to the next experimentation or the next output. And I just, it's so easy in today's world to just do nothing but consume. And that's what,
I mean, the easiest one to do, if you like really need a very specific task, is to start writing your own memoir. Like, literally just go into notes and just write about your childhood. Everyone's had one. Just do it. Like, literally, it's the easiest thing, but that's a better spent hour in documenting that than you like doom scrolling.
Yep. Agreed. Well said. Thanks again. Appreciate all of our guest speakers today. Really enjoyed the conversation. I know we didn't get into a whole lot of crypto, or we did dabble a little bit in NFT land. Crypto's kind of boring right now, but I think it's the calm before the storm. I do think a lot of this agentic world we're heading into is going to take place on chain. Specifically, I think it's going to be on ETH and a lot of the ETH layer 2s.
Wait, ETH Denver is happening. Isn't that like this week?
Oh yeah, good call. Anyone's at ETH Denver, let us know. I'd love to get some boots on the ground takes from what you're seeing out there. I'm guessing a good chunk of the booths and exhibitors are going to be talking something AI related, whether it's core product of theirs or how they're leaning into AI, how they're leaning into some of these new Ethereum protocols. So yeah, if you're out there or attending ETH Denver, hit me with a DM, and maybe if you're up for it, we can even do a deeper dive. But if not that, I'd love to hear some comments and some feedback, what you're seeing out there. ETH Denver is one that I've thought about going every year, but still yet to make it. Just, I don't know, no excuses. But one of these days I will hit ETH Denver, as well as South by Southwest is another one that I do desire to get to. But Outer, I'm already keeping you long. Apologies to your whoever you're meeting with next that blamed me for holding you too long. But appreciate y'all being here. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Thanks so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone.